Marcus Chen had always prided himself on his attention to detail. As an architect, it was his job to notice the small inconsistencies that could compromise an entire structure. Lately, he'd been noticing inconsistencies in a structure much closer to home, his marriage. "It's just dinner with David from accounting," Sarah said, applying lipstick in the hallway mirror. "We're discussing the quarterly reports over food. You know how Jenkins wants everything perfect before the board meeting?" Marcus looked up from his laptop, taking in the scene. His wife of 7 years wore a dress he'd never seen before. Emerald green, elegant, definitely not her usual work attire. Her perfume was different too. Not the vanilla scent she'd worn since college, but something expensive, something new. On a Thursday night, Marcus kept his tone neutral. "That's the third late work dinner this month." "It's a busy quarter, Mark." Sarah grabbed her clutch, avoiding his eyes. "Don't wait up. These things tend to run long." The door clicked shut behind her, and Marcus sat in the silence of their carefully decorated apartment. Everything around him suddenly felt like a facade. The throw pillows Sarah had insisted on, the art prints they'd chosen together, the framed photos of happier times lining the mantel. He wasn't a suspicious man by nature, but he also wasn't blind. The late nights had started 3 months ago. First, it was once every few weeks, then weekly. Now it was happening multiple times a week. Sarah's phone had acquired a password he didn't know. She'd started going to the gym before work, coming home glowing and secretive. The intimacy between them had dwindled to nothing. She was always too tired, too stressed, too busy. Marcus opened his laptop and stared at the screen, but the architectural renderings blurred before his eyes. He thought about calling her, about demanding the truth, about showing up at whatever restaurant she claimed to be at. But something held him back. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was the need to be absolutely certain before destroying what remained of his marriage. Instead, he made a different call. "Chen residence," he said when the phone picked up. "This is Marcus Chen. I need to schedule a consultation. Tomorrow, if possible." The law office of Patricia Morrison had been recommended by his college roommate who'd gone through his own messy divorce 2 years ago. "If you ever need a shark," Jake had said, "Trish is the best." Marcus had laughed it off then. Now he wasn't laughing. He spent the next hour doing something he'd never imagined he'd do, going through Sarah's things. Not dramatically, not angrily, but methodically. He found receipts in her coat pockets for restaurants they'd never been to together. A gift receipt from a jewelry store, for a men's watch he'd never received. Credit card statements showing charges at hotels downtown. Always on nights she'd claimed to be at corporate events out of town. The evidence piled up like bricks, each one building a wall between the life he thought he had and the truth he'd been avoiding. At 11:47 p.m., Sarah's key turned in the lock. Marcus was still sitting in the living room, lights on, laptop open, looking exactly as she'd left him. "You're still up?" She seemed surprised, almost guilty. "How was dinner?" Marcus asked, his voice steady. "Long, exhausting. David is so particular about the numbers." She kicked off her heels, new ones, expensive. "I'm going to shower and go straight to bed." As she disappeared into the bedroom, Marcus noticed something that made his stomach twist. Her dress had a small stain near the hem, red wine. But Sarah had been allergic to red wine since college. She never drank it. He closed his laptop slowly, decisively. Tomorrow he'd meet with Patricia Morrison, and he'd start building a case with the same precision and attention to detail he brought to every blueprint. Because if Sarah wanted to play games, Marcus was going to change the rules entirely. The structure of their marriage had cracks, and Marcus Chen knew exactly what to do with compromised foundations. You tear them down and start over. Patricia Morrison's office occupied the corner suite of a high-rise downtown, with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a panoramic view of the city. Marcus sat in a leather chair across from her desk, watching as she reviewed the folder of evidence he'd compiled over the past 2 weeks. "You've been thorough," Patricia said, looking up with sharp, intelligent eyes. She was in her mid-40s with silver-streaked hair pulled back in a neat bun, and the kind of confident presence that filled a room. "Hotel receipts, restaurant bills, text message timestamps. You've documented everything." "I'm an architect," Marcus replied. "Documentation is what I do." Patricia leaned back in her chair. "Mr. Chen, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Do you want to save this marriage, or do you want to end it?" Marcus had been asking himself the same question for days. He thought about the Sarah he'd fallen in love with in college, the art history major with paint-stained fingers and a laugh that could light up a room. He thought about their wedding day, the promises they'd made. He thought about lazy Sunday mornings and inside jokes and the life they'd built together. Then he thought about the lies. The deception, the calculated way she looked him in the eye and invented stories while wearing another man's cologne. "I want out," he said quietly, "but I want her to understand what she's done. I want her to see it." Patricia nodded slowly. "Revenge isn't usually something I encourage in my clients. It tends to complicate proceedings and drag things out, but..." She tapped her pen against the folder. "There might be a way to handle this that serves both purposes. A clean break, but with clarity. Interested?" "I'm listening." "Your wife thinks she's controlling the narrative. She comes and goes as she pleases, and you're the understanding husband waiting at home. What if we flip that script?" Patricia pulled out a legal pad. "Next time she goes out for one of her dinners, you do the same. But you do it right. You go somewhere visible, somewhere nice. And you're not alone." Marcus frowned. "You mean hire someone? Stage something?" "No, nothing fake. Nothing that could be used against you." Patricia smiled. "You have dinner with me, your lawyer. Perfectly legitimate. We're preparing your divorce papers, after all. We need to discuss strategy, assets, the timeline. But to anyone looking in, especially to your wife if she happens to come home and find us there, it looks like exactly what she's been doing." "A mirror," Marcus said slowly. Understanding dawning. "A mirror," Patricia confirmed. "And here's the beautiful part. We do it at your home. You get dressed up, nice dinner, wine, professional conversation, but the divorce papers are right there on the table. When she walks in, everything is out in the open. No games, no deception, just the truth presented clearly." Marcus felt something unfamiliar stir in his chest. Not quite satisfaction, not quite vindication. More like the feeling he got when a design finally clicked into place, when all the pieces aligned perfectly. "She has another work dinner planned for next Thursday," he said. "She told me this morning. With David again." Patricia checked her calendar. "Thursday works. 7 p.m. Make it 8. She usually doesn't get home until 11 or later." They spent the next hour going over details, assets. The apartment was in both names. But Marcus had made the down payment with his inheritance. Savings accounts, joint and separate. Sarah's car, which Marcus had bought for her last birthday. His 401k. The beach house they'd purchased 2 years ago. "No children?" Patricia asked. "No. We were waiting until my firm made me a partner. That happened 6 months ago." Marcus laughed bitterly. "I guess it's good timing, at least for this. Any chance she's pregnant?" The question hit Marcus like a physical blow. He hadn't even considered it. We haven't been intimate in months. If she is, it's definitely not mine." Patricia made a note. "We'll require a paternity test if that comes up. Don't worry, we'll protect you." As Marcus left the office, he felt strange. Not happy exactly, but purposeful. For weeks he'd been passive, watching his marriage crumble while pretending everything was fine. Now he was taking action, not with anger or spite, but with the same careful planning he brought to his work. That night Sarah came home at her usual time, 6:30 p.m. before the lies began. She microwaved leftovers while scrolling through her phone, smiling at messages Marcus couldn't see. "How was work?" he asked, playing the role one more time. "Busy, always busy." She didn't look up. "Oh, I have another late meeting next Thursday. David wants to finalize the Henderson project before Jenkins reviews it." "Thursday," Marcus repeated. "No problem. I'll probably work late myself." Sarah finally glanced at him, a flicker of something. Surprise? Suspicion? Crossing her face. "You will?" "Partnership means more responsibility." Marcus smiled blandly. "You understand." After she went to bed, Marcus stood at their bedroom door watching her sleep. 7 years of marriage. 7 years of shared dreams and combined efforts. And it had come to this. Strategic planning for maximum impact on the night he revealed her betrayal. Part of him wanted to walk away quietly, to just file papers and disappear. But the larger part, the part that had been lied to, dismissed and taken for granted, wanted her to see, to understand, to realize that actions had consequences. Thursday couldn't come soon enough. The days leading up to Thursday moved with agonizing slowness. Marcus went through the motions of normalcy. Morning coffee with Sarah, bland conversations about weather and weekend plans, good night kisses that felt like theater. But beneath the surface, he was orchestrating something precise and deliberate. On Monday, he had the apartment deep cleaned by a professional service. Every surface gleamed. Fresh flowers appeared in vases throughout the space. Sarah noticed, of course. "What's the occasion?" she asked, running her finger along the spotless kitchen counter. "No occasion. Just felt like the place needed it." Marcus didn't look up from his tablet. "We've been so busy things had gotten messy." Tuesday, he went shopping. Not for himself, for the apartment. New candles, expensive ones that filled rooms with subtle fragrance. A vintage wine he'd been saving for a special occasion, though this certainly wasn't the celebration he'd once imagined. New table settings, simple but elegant. "You're nesting," Sarah observed with a laugh that sounded nervous. "Are you okay?" "Never better. Just appreciating what we have." The irony tasted bitter in his mouth. Wednesday, he confirmed everything with Patricia. 8 p.m. sharp, she said over the phone. "I'll bring the papers. 3 copies, one for you, one for her, one for our files. I'll also bring dinner from Marcello's. Their osso buco is exceptional." "Should I dress up?" Marcus felt ridiculous asking. "Business casual. Nice shirt, good pants. You want to look like someone who's taking an important meeting seriously." Patricia paused. "How are you holding up?" "I'm fine. No, you're not. And that's okay." "What you're doing takes courage, Marcus. Most people would just serve papers through a lawyer and avoid the confrontation entirely." "I need her to see it," Marcus said. "I need her to walk into what she's been doing to me." "Is that cruel?" "It's honest. And honestly, after what I've read in that file, it's generous compared to what she deserves." Thursday morning arrived with the kind of crystalline clarity that made the city look sharp and defined. Sarah was already dressed for work, checking her reflection in the hallway mirror. "So you're working late too?" she asked casually, applying lipstick, a shade darker than usual. "Yep, big presentation tomorrow. Probably won't be home until late." "Want me to text you when I'm heading back?" The audacity of the question almost made Marcus laugh. She was asking for a warning, a heads up so she could adjust her timeline if needed. Still managing the deception, still controlling the narrative. "Sure," he said. "That would be thoughtful." After she left, Marcus worked from home, something his partnership now allowed. He couldn't concentrate on actual projects, so he finalized the details instead. He moved the dining table closer to the entryway, visible immediately upon entering. He set it with the new dishes, the candles, the wine. The folder of divorce papers sat at the head of the table, Patricia's business card resting on top. At 7 p.m., he showered and changed. Gray slacks, a crisp white button-down, the watch Sarah had given him for their 5th anniversary. He looked at himself in the mirror. Same face, same person, but somehow different. Harder, more certain. His phone buzzed. "Sarah, meeting running long. Probably 11 or later. Don't wait up." The heart emoji felt like a slap. "Marcus, no problem. I'll be busy anyway." At 7:45, Patricia arrived. She wore a professional black pantsuit and carried bags from Marcello's that filled the apartment with the rich smell of Italian cooking. "You clean up nice?" she said, looking around approvingly. "This is perfect. Intimate without being romantic. Professional but personal." They set out the food, osso buco, risotto, roasted vegetables, crusty bread. Patricia poured the wine. "Are you having second thoughts?" she asked, watching him closely. Marcus thought about it. Really thought about it. Was there any part of him that wanted to call this off? To confront Sarah differently? To try counseling or communication? Or any of the normal ways couples addressed infidelity? "No," he said finally. "I'm done being the person who doesn't see what's right in front of him." They ate slowly, discussing the divorce proceedings. Patricia explained the timeline: filing, serving papers, the mandatory waiting period, asset division. It was surreal, planning the dismantling of his marriage over wine and Italian food in the home he'd shared with Sarah. "The apartment will likely be sold and proceeds split," Patricia said, checking her notes. "Unless one of you wants to buy out the other's share. Do you want to keep it?" Marcus looked around at the space they'd made together. The exposed brick Sarah had loved. The built-in bookshelves he'd designed. The view of the city they'd admired on countless evenings. "No," he said. "Too many ghosts." At 10:30, Patricia's phone buzzed. "My office is checking in. Should I tell them we're wrapping up soon?" "Give it another hour." Sarah said 11 or later. They moved to discussing strategy. "If she contests anything, we have documentation." The hotel receipts alone establish a pattern, but I should warn you this might get messy. Some people, when cornered, fight back hard. Let her fight, Marcus said quietly. I have the truth. At 11:07 p.m. they heard it, the sound of a key in the lock. Patricia straightened in her chair, becoming instantly more formal. Marcus felt his heart rate spike but kept his face neutral. The papers sat in the center of the table, impossible to miss. The door opened. Sarah walked in, laughing at something on her phone. Then she looked up. Her face went through a remarkable transformation. Confusion, shock, comprehension, and finally, something close to panic. Mark? Her voice was small. What's going on? Marcus took a sip of wine, letting the moment hang. Hello, Sarah. You're home earlier than expected. This is Patricia Morrison, my lawyer. Sarah's eyes dropped to the papers on the table. Even from the doorway, the word divorce was clearly visible. I don't understand, she whispered. Patricia stood smoothly. Ms. Chen, perhaps you'd like to sit down. We have a lot to discuss. And Marcus thought, now it looks exactly like what it is. Sarah remained frozen in the doorway, her designer purse slipping from her shoulder to the floor with a soft thud. The emerald dress she wore, another new one Marcus had never seen, suddenly looked garish in the soft candlelight of their dining room. Sit down, Sarah, Marcus said, his voice calm but firm. We've been waiting for you. This is insane. Sarah's shock was crystallizing into anger. Who is this woman? What the hell is going on? I told you. This is Patricia Morrison, my divorce attorney. Marcus gestured to the empty chair across from him. We've been having dinner, discussing your infidelity, going over the evidence, planning our next steps. Patricia pulled out the chair professionally. Miss Chen, I understand this is shocking, but we really should discuss. I don't want to sit down. Sarah's voice cracked. Mark, have you lost your mind? You're having dinner with another woman and talking about divorce? The irony hung in the air like smoke. Yes, Marcus said simply. Now you know how it feels to come home and find your spouse having an intimate dinner with someone else. Although in my case, it's actually what it appears to be, a business meeting. Can you say the same about your dinners with David? Sarah's face went white. I don't know what you're talking about. Marcus opened the folder and pulled out the first receipt. Bella Notte 3 weeks ago. You said you were at a client dinner with your team, but this receipt shows 2 entrees, a bottle of champagne and creme brulee for 2. Your team wasn't there, was it? I can explain. Another receipt. The Riverside Inn 2 weeks ago. You told me you were at a conference in Boston. But here's a hotel charge. Downtown. 20 minutes from our apartment. Marcus's voice remained steady, but his hands shook slightly as he laid out evidence like cards in a game. Should I continue? Sarah grabbed the back of the chair for support. You went through my things? I did. After noticing that my wife was wearing perfume she's never owned, dresses I've never seen, and coming home with wine stains on her clothes despite being allergic to red wine. Marcus stood facing her across the table. You've been lying to me for months, Sarah, and honestly, that's what hurts most. Not that you found someone else, not even the cheating itself, but the fact that you looked me in the eye every single day and lied. Tears started streaming down Sarah's face. It's not what you think. Then what is it? Marcus's careful composure cracked slightly.
Enlighten me.
Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been having an affair while I played the fool at home. Sarah collapsed into the chair, her face in her hands. David and I, it just happened. We were working late and he understood the pressure I was under, and you were always so busy with your partnership. Don't. Marcus's voice cut through her explanation like a knife. Don't you dare blame me for your choices. I was busy building a future for us. I got that partnership for us. Every late night, every stressful project, it was all for us. Patricia cleared her throat gently. Ms. Chen, I think it would be helpful if you reviewed these documents. Mr. Chen is filing for divorce on grounds of adultery. Given the evidence, we're confident this will be straightforward. The question now is whether you want to contest the terms or negotiate reasonably. Sarah looked up at Patricia with red-rimmed eyes. You planned this. You wanted me to come home and see this. You wanted to humiliate me. I wanted you to see the truth, Marcus corrected. For months I've been in the dark while you lived a double life. I wanted you to experience what that feels like, to walk into a situation and realize everything you thought you knew was wrong. But this is cruel. Is it? Marcus sat back down, suddenly exhausted. You know what would have been cruel, Sarah? Finding out after we had kids. After another 5 years of marriage. After I'd made you the beneficiary on my life insurance and revised my will and planned our retirement together. This is me catching you before you could waste any more of my life. Sarah was crying harder now, her makeup running in dark streaks. I love you, Mark. I made a mistake, but I love you. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. You love me? Marcus laughed, a bitter sound. You loved me so much you've been sleeping with David for months. You loved me so much you lied to my face every single day. You loved me so much you wore his cologne home and expected me not to notice. People make mistakes. Marriages survive affairs. We took vows. You broke those vows. Marcus pulled out 3 more receipts, spreading them across the table. Not once. Not twice. This is a pattern, Sarah. This is a choice you made repeatedly, consciously, while actively deceiving me. Patricia intervened smoothly. Ms. Chen, I'm going to leave these preliminary documents here for you to review. I strongly suggest you obtain your own legal representation. We're proposing a fair division of assets. 50-50 split of joint accounts. The apartment to be sold with proceeds divided. Separate property retained by original owners. Given the circumstances, Mr. Chen is being quite generous. Generous? Sarah laughed hysterically. He's destroying our marriage. No, Marcus said quietly. You did that. I'm just making it official. Sarah stood abruptly, knocking her chair backward. I'm not signing anything. You can't force me to get divorced. Actually, Patricia said calmly, in this state, divorce doesn't require both parties' consent. Mr. Chen can file regardless of your cooperation, but it will be easier and cheaper for both of you if you work with us rather than against us. Sarah looked between them, realization dawning that this wasn't a bluff or a scare tactic. This was real. Her marriage was ending and she couldn't manipulate or explain her way out of it. Where am I supposed to go? She whispered. I've booked you a room at the Marriott downtown, Marcus said, 2 weeks prepaid. Your things are already packed. They're in the bedroom. Sarah's eyes widened. You packed my things? While planning this ambush? Yes, I wanted to be efficient. Marcus stood. I'm not throwing you out on the street, Sarah, but I am asking you to leave tonight. This is my apartment now. You'll get your share when we settle, but for now, I need you gone. The finality in his voice seemed to break something in Sarah. She crumpled, sobbing, all her anger dissolving into grief. Please, Mark, please, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll end it with David. I'll do anything. Please don't do this. For a moment, just a moment, Marcus felt his resolve waver. This was the woman he'd married, the woman he'd loved, breaking apart in front of him. Part of him wanted to comfort her, to fix this, to find a way back. But then he remembered the lies, the calculated deception, the way she'd kissed him goodbye before going to another man. And he knew. Some things once broken couldn't be repaired. Your bags are in the bedroom, he repeated. Take them and go. The apartment was too quiet. Marcus sat on the couch as dawn light filtered through the windows, still wearing his clothes from the night before. The dining table was cleared now. Patricia had helped him put away the dishes before she left, ever the professional. The divorce papers sat in a neat stack on the coffee table. Sarah's signature line remained blank. She'd left around midnight, tears exhausted, dignity shattered. She'd dragged 2 suitcases to the elevator while Marcus held the door, refusing to look at him, refusing to speak. The last sound had been the elevator doors closing, final and decisive as a coffin lid. Now, in the gray morning light, Marcus felt nothing. Not satisfaction. Not grief. Just a vast emptiness where 7 years of marriage used to be. His phone buzzed. A text from Patricia. How are you holding up? I know last night was difficult, Marcus. I'm okay. Thank you for being there, Patricia. That's what you pay me for. But seriously, take the day. Process. Don't make any major decisions. The paperwork will wait. He set the phone down and looked around the apartment. Everything was exactly as Sarah had left it. Her decorating choices, her aesthetic preferences, her vision of their life together. Throw pillows he'd never cared about. Art prints she'd selected. Even the coffee maker was one she'd insisted on. Some fancy Italian model that required a YouTube tutorial to operate. This wasn't his space. It was theirs. And theirs didn't exist anymore. His phone rang. Unknown number, hello? You bastard. David's voice was sharp, angry. Sarah called me at 3 a.m. hysterical. What the hell did you do? Marcus felt a strange calm settle over him. I told her the truth. I showed her evidence of her affair. I filed for divorce. You know, normal responses to discovering your wife is cheating. She made a mistake. She made 100 mistakes. And you helped her make them. Marcus stood, walking to the window. Tell me something, David. Did she tell you about me? When you were together, did she mention her husband at home? Silence on the other end? Or did you both pretend I didn't exist? Marcus continued. Made it easier that way, didn't it? Just two people enjoying each other's company. No consequences, no complications. It's not that simple. It never is. But here's what is simple. You pursued a married woman. She lied to her husband. You both made choices, and now there are consequences. Sarah's losing her marriage. I suggest you figure out if she was worth it. We're in love, David said. But he sounded uncertain. Then you got what you wanted. Congratulations, she's all yours now. Marcus hung up. 3 hours later, his phone rang again. This time it was his mother. Marcus Chen, what is going on? Sarah just called me, sobbing about divorce papers and lawyers and you throwing her out. Marcus closed his eyes. Of course Sarah had called his mother. Playing the victim, seeking allies, controlling the narrative even in defeat. Mom, did she mention the affair? Silence. Then what affair? The one she's been having for the past 4 months. The one she lied about repeatedly. The one I have hotel receipts and restaurant bills to prove. Marcus's voice was tired but firm. She cheated, Mom. This isn't a misunderstanding or a rough patch. She betrayed our marriage. Oh, baby. His mother's tone shifted instantly from accusatory to sympathetic. I'm so sorry. Why didn't you call me? Because I needed to handle it my way. And I did. They talked for an hour. His mother alternated between fury at Sarah and concern for Marcus. She offered to come stay with him, to help him through this, to cook meals and provide company. Marcus declined gently. He needed to sit with this, to process it alone. Over the next few days, word spread. Friends reached out, awkward and uncertain about how to respond. Some sided with Sarah, convinced there must be more to the story. Most supported Marcus, especially once the evidence became clear. His best friend Jake came over with beer and pizza, offering solidarity and sharing war stories from his own divorce. The first week is the worst, Jake said, sprawled on the couch. You question everything. Wonder if you should have tried harder, fought for it, gone to counseling. And then you remember why you left. You remember the lies and the betrayal and the person who looked you in the eye and deceived you daily, and you realize you made the right choice. A week after that night, Sarah's lawyer contacted Patricia. Sarah was willing to sign the papers with the proposed terms. No contest, no fight. She wanted it done quickly and quietly. She's probably embarrassed, Patricia said over the phone. Word's gotten out at her office. David's wife found out. Yes, he was married too, and apparently made quite a scene. Sarah's professional reputation is taking a hit. Marcus felt a twinge of something. Not quite sympathy, but not satisfaction either. Just a weary recognition that everyone involved had lost something. Let's finalize it, he said. The next few weeks passed in a blur of paperwork and logistics. The apartment went on the market. Marcus found a smaller place across town. Modern, minimal, nothing like the home he'd shared with Sarah. He kept almost nothing from their old life together. Fresh start required a clean slate. On the day the divorce was finalized, Marcus stood in his new apartment, boxes still unpacked around him. His phone pinged with an email from Patricia. It's official. You're a free man, free. The word felt strange. Not joyful, not relieving, just different. That evening, Jake convinced him to go out. They met at a bar downtown, modern and loud, full of young professionals unwinding after work. Marcus felt ancient among them, like he'd aged decades in just a few months. To new beginnings, Jake toasted, raising his beer. Marcus clinked glasses, but didn't echo the sentiment. New beginnings implied hope, possibility, excitement about what came next. He didn't feel any of that yet. What he felt was honest, clear, unburdened by deception. You did good, Jake said seriously. Not many guys would have handled it the way you did. Most would have just exploded or fallen apart. You were surgical, precise. I'm an architect, Marcus said. When something's structurally unsound, you don't try to patch it. You tear it down and build something better. So what are you going to build now? Marcus thought about it. His career was solid. The partnership was thriving. His health was good. His friendships, real ones not dependent on being part of a couple, were intact. He had resources, time, and the hard-won wisdom of someone who'd survived betrayal without losing himself. "I don't know yet," he admitted. "But whatever it is, it'll be built on truth. No more facades. No more ignoring the cracks." Later, walking home through the city streets, Marcus passed a restaurant with outdoor seating. A couple sat at a corner table, holding hands, leaning close in intimate conversation. For a moment, he felt the sharp pang of loss. Not for Sarah specifically, but for what he'd thought they had. The partnership, the trust, the shared dreams. But then he remembered that final night. Sarah walking through the door, confident in her deceptions, only to find him waiting with Patricia and the truth laid bare. The shock on her face when she realized he knew. The moment her carefully constructed lies collapsed. "Now it looks exactly like what it is," he'd said. And it did. No more pretending. No more lies. Just reality, clear and uncompromising. Marcus continued walking, leaving the restaurant and the couple behind. Somewhere ahead in the dark city blocks before him was a future he couldn't yet see. It wouldn't be the future he'd planned with Sarah. It wouldn't be the life he'd expected, but it would be real. And built by him alone on a foundation of honesty and self-respect. Some structures, once compromised, had to come down. The question wasn't whether to demolish them, it was what you'd build in their place. Marcus was ready to find out.